Any composer or librettist's great wish, that's to grasp people and take them up and shake them.
We believe in opera that is dramatic.
The power of a person like Luther, he can actually seduce a whole population.
And opera is fantastic to make you understand this power.
Schlagt sie tot.
This opera is relevant today because we again have a situation of radicalization, of religious radicalization, and we also have, as in those days, a greedy elite who doesn't take care of the rest of the people, who don't care about changing themselves. So you could say that again we have a situation that could end with an explosive revolution.
It's not only the music which is relevant, the whole story of Luther and the Reformation is so relevant today because we are living in an age full of religious fanaticism. The fanaticism of so many religious parts in the world are sticking their heads forward. We have forgotten the wars, we have forgotten all the conflicts. People are delving into this horrible fanaticism. And it's happening right now as it was when Luther started his Reformation.
We also have media, a new kind of media, as in those days, where with hate speech, a lot of violence spread very quickly, and that is also very similar to in the 16th century.
This opera could seem like a kind of warning to today's people. Please see how things like this develop.
I finished the text in 2015, and at that point I thought this is really like today with radicalization, religion, all this. But after this, it has even continued. I would say, for example, that Trump is a little bit of a Luther person, especially in the way that he can change mind, lie a little bit, and his followers doesn't care. But also the idea of iconoclasm, that is that you destroy images. Suddenly now, we really have some kind of iconoclasm in the identity politics, where statues and sculptures are torn down. It is really a little piece of this also coming. That is, I would say, that the whole situation is building up to this violence. Suddenly, I can break rules. Suddenly, I can do things that are not allowed because it's so important, because the situation is so extreme. That is really what happened also in Luther times, when people suddenly broke laws in a way and went against the church in a way that was unbelievable. The person who can change the world, what is that kind of person? How is his psychology? How is the process? And when we look at this process, it is enigmatic in many ways. First, a person who's attractive, charismatic, and he gathers a lot of people. Then it starts out to feel a little bit uneasy, some kind of uneasiness, what's going on. But now it's difficult to stop the train. This opera ends up in war. And to tell this story, the enthusiasm, the will to change the world, and it's not that easy. And it really ends up with war for hundreds of centuries. And it also ends up with more oppression than it was before. And we can learn a lot from this, especially to look at the humans inside this story. How do we react? How is the process when something that should be good and a revolt that was really necessary, how this turns out to be not that easy that we had hoped it would be. I started to go down to Germany and visit all those Luther sites. For me, it became more and more important to really follow the research and to not have a fantasy in it, because it is about real life. It is about as I talked about before, someone a lot of people love and respect. The whole storyline is developed while I'm researching, because while researching I find those exciting moments, I find those exciting situations, I find those relevant turning points. So the more you read, the more you get material that is exciting.
Composing about Luther is really interesting for many reasons. Primarily, actually, because he was so musical himself. He was incredibly interested in the musical subject and how music could work for religion and how music could work on people, the power of music. So when you should compose something, it should demonstrate the power of music over people. And Luther himself, he was so keenly interested in it that he began composing hymns himself which would be suitable for the faith he believed in. Through different processes, I realized that composing about Luther, I had to take his own music as my point of departure. These hymns that we all know and admire are the basic material for this whole opera. And as the opera is quite critical of Luther and also of the Reformation as in itself and having a historical look of it, I thought there was a wonderful paradox in shaping all this on Luther's own music. As I turned out all of the music, his hymns attuned themselves to my working process. So it was fascinating to see how Luther's own music started to dictate the way I could compose the music. So I felt sometimes that I had Luther sitting on my shoulder composing this. So when you experience this opera, you are in actual fact being lifted back 500 years to the musical situation 500 years ago. And at the same time has a lot to do with today. And like any proper opera composer, I'm of course also influenced by Wagner and Puccini and Benjamin Britten, you name it. But the whole kernel of the thing, the core of the thing, is Luther's own music.
I think the difference with an opera is that there are such huge feelings invested.
The whole show in an opera like that, there are almost 200 participants in this. I mean, the orchestra itself is 75 and there's a huge opera choir and a lot of soloists and things like that. So you have the whole apparatus going to grasp people.
We believe in opera that is dramatic, and that is that there are people talking, there are personalities, and there is always a kind of tension. When I write, I try to make a kind of tension in between every line, I would say, and also in between scenes, and that is what can be composed, and that is also what can be acted. You can understand it on intellectual level, but I think when you understand things also with your feelings, this understanding can be deeper.
Any composer or librettist's great wish, that's to grasp people and take them up and shake them and make them think and feel. That's the whole thing.